When you play the Game of Thrones, you
subscribe and like,
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube, welcome back to the Grease Goblin YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be talking about Dany and Illyrio's possible next encounter. And I've talked a lot about how I believe that Dany is going to go back to Pentos. And in today's video, we're going to kind of go through why I believe that's going to happen, why it makes logical sense for the story, and giving a little bit of maybe my evidence to cite as to why I think that's possible, and why I believe that, unlike in the show, Illyrio and Dany do have some arc that I think needs to be completed and can't really just be left open. But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow, reach our people that might like this content as well. And let's get into it. So to start today's video, I want to do a quote. Also, let me know what you guys think about this. I'm kind of testing using some clone voices of maybe some of the actors that played these characters in the show for like the book readings and stuff. So let me know what you guys think about it. This one kind of came out okay, but yeah. This is Dany 9 and Dany talking about Illyrio and kind of giving away Pentos to the Tattered Prince.
And if I never march for Westeros? Pentos belongs to the Pentoshi, and Magister Illyrio is in Pentos. He who arranged my marriage to Khal Drogo and gave me my dragon eggs, who sent me you and Belwas and Groleo. I owe him much and more. I will not repay that debt by giving his city to some sellsword. No.
And this quote kind of comes off very kind of weird, because Dany is someone who, if we even look at the rereads, right, even in Dany 1, Dany is someone that doesn't seem like she trusts Illyrio. She kind of realizes that Illyrio is kind of messing with her brother, kind of manipulating him. And when, you know, Illyrio's saying, oh, all of these people back home will rise up for you, Dany kind of seems like she's very unsure of this Illyrio character, where Dany is someone that can recognize when Illyrio is doing these side smiles and joking when Viserys says things like, oh, I will kill Robert. So it's very interesting when we get to this book, and Dany is kind of looking back on Illyrio and going, yeah, he is a friend. He is someone that, you know, got my marriage to Khal Drogo, made that happen. He gave me my dragon eggs. He sent me, you know, Barristan, Belwas, all these people. She feels like she owes him something. Now, that's very interesting to think about, because when we know with Illyrio, that's not really what his motivations were, right? In a lot of ways, Illyrio thought that Dany would just die in the Dothraki Sea, right? Dany is not really that valuable to Illyrio at this point. So it's interesting to think about how, again, Dany thinks about Illyrio, and Illyrio thinks about Dany. Now let's think about characters that know what Illyrio is actually planning. Tyrion. Everyone knows, it's kind of been this built-up thing, that Tyrion and Dany are probably going to team up. It's the story is leading to it. That's what's going to happen at some point. So when Dany brings up, say, Illyrio, or say even Tyrion brings up, yeah, you know, this young Griff guy that invaded Westeros, he is actually being someone that's hidden and fostered by Illyrio right when, you know, you guys also were with Illyrio. So there's going to be a lot of questions that Dany is going to have when that pops up. Another thing you're going to have here is that Tyrion's going to say, I don't believe that this was Aegon, Rhaegar's kid. I just don't believe that. And even Dany, in her mind, what is she going to think when she first hears this? Wait a minute, I have somebody else that's related to me, that's in my family, that's still alive. That's going to be something where, how does Dany take that, right? Because, again, young Griff is going to have a better claim than she will if he is true. That's a lot of things going on, especially when you see Quaithe, who in this story tells her not to trust people, not to trust this false dragon character. So again, I think there's a lot of signs pointing to, okay, what is Dany going to think? And I think what we're going to see is Pentos. Well, why Pentos? If we look at the geography of Westeros, it makes sense that Pentos would be the last place in Essos Dany would go. It is kind of the closest port city to going to Westeros, on that kind of like west coast of Essos. It's kind of the best little spot there. And also, we know that Dany has ties to Pentos. It's where we came into her story with, and we know that Dany is probably going to have some interaction with Illyrio, trying to uncover what is the truth, what is going on here. It could even be one of her betrayals, if that is what you believe. And I think it's very interesting the way we're going to continuously see Dany trusting people, and the way that doesn't work. She kind of trust. She feels like she owes Illyrio things. She trusts the Green Grace, who's probably going to be another person that is going to betray her, or has probably already betrayed her, but in her mind, she's going to figure that out. So to me, we look at Pentos. It makes sense. I think Pentos is the perfect Dany chapter, like not the last chapter of Winds of Winter, but the second to last. We see this chapter unfold with her and Illyrio, and she figures out that young Griff is a Blackfire. She kind of has, it could even play out like this within the story, where we see that Dany is a character that really wants young Griff to be her family, right? She hasn't had any family since Viserys, really, because again, you know, Aemon's been at the wall, and now he's died, and she really didn't have any connection with him anyway. But again, you'd have this person that's kind of around Dany's age, and they could, again, be a family. And that's something that Dany really hasn't had. And so she could be in the back of her mind hoping beyond hope that it's true, and not listening to Tyrion that this young Griff guy probably isn't a Targaryen. And what could eventually happen is Illyrio tells her, yeah, he's a Blackfire. Now, why would Illyrio do that? I think Illyrio, for one, could just try and be honest with Dany to save his own skin. Because again, this is going to invoke a lot of emotion from Dany. A lot of questions are going to come up that I've talked about in a prior video that I did with Illyrio's whole plan, which is what was Illyrio's plan, right? Like, it seems like young Griff was getting all this special treatment, all of the best education, all of the best people surrounding him, while Dany and Viserys weren't really getting that, right? They were kind of being sold off. Like, Dany was sold off. I think that's going to invoke a lot of questions on Illyrio's loyalties to Dany. And I think Dany is going to understand that. And I think Illyrio is going to understand that as well. So to me, I think it could be just a situation where Illyrio tries to save his own skin and try to gain some sympathy, right? If he goes with this whole story that, you know, my wife was a Blackfire and I was trying to do this for her, you know, maybe he could get some sympathy there. And we know Illyrio is very good at manipulation. Maybe this could be him trying to save his own neck. So that to me makes a lot of sense. It would kind of wrap up the entire arc with Illyrio and Dany in book 1 into this moment. And it would also perfectly foreshadow and set up the conflict of the last book. Because we'd have Dany getting this big reveal that, again, young Griff is a Blackfire. We hear it straight from Illyrio's lips. Or maybe it's not really confirmed, but it's alluded to. By the end of this book, the last chapter, again, the second to last would probably be Pentos. I think that makes a good spot. And the last chapter could be her, again, sailing off, and then we'll pick up in Dream of Spring with her landing probably in Dragonstone. It sets up perfectly the conflict of the next book, which is going to be young Griff, Dany, and then also the others, which will probably be the last chapter of the book being something to do with the others probably coming south. So I think all of the pieces kind of fit really, really, really well. Now, I want to again finish on a quote for you guys as we'll get about Illyrio from Dany.
He had friends in all of the 9 free cities, it was said, and even beyond, in Vias Dothrak and the fabled lands beside the Jade Sea. It was also said that he'd never had a friend he wouldn't cheerfully sell for the right price.